The film kept running. No one called cut, and what ended up on the footage wasn't a performance, it was a person's final moments. Actual death, preserved frame by frame, sealed away in reels and hard drives. The entertainment industry has always played with what's real and what's staged, but these incidents didn't just blur the boundary, they wiped it out. These aren't campfire stories traded on backlots. They're documented catastrophes from real productions. The recordings exist even when studios tried to bury them. And in each case, someone was watching through a lens, realizing far too late that what was happening couldn't be undone. Number 5. Vic Morrow, Twilight Zone, the movie 1982. The helicopter was never meant to go down. Vic Morrow had been around forever by Hollywood standards, dependable, seasoned, the kind of actor directors trusted. He wasn't tabloid famous, but he was respected. After years of working steadily, including the 1960s series Combat, Twilight Zone, the movie felt like a step back into something major. A big project, a spotlight again. The sequence was set in a Vietnam-era village. Morrow's character was supposed to run through chaos while holding 2 child actors. Explosions were timed around them. A real helicopter hovered low, close enough to feel. It was late around 2:20 a.m. at Indian Dunes in California. The kind of hour when judgment and energy both start to slip? Then everything went wrong, eh? Pyrotechnic blast struck the helicopter's tail rotor. The aircraft lost stability and dropped. In seconds, it came down into the performers. Morrow and both children were killed horrifically by the impact and rotor blades. Multiple cameras captured the disaster. People shouted. Some ran toward the wreckage. Others didn't move at all, frozen by shock. The fallout reshaped the industry. John Landis and 4 others were charged with involuntary manslaughter. The court case dragged on for months and ended in acquittals, but the damage, moral and cultural, was permanent. Rules around child performers tightened. Safety standards for stunts, aircraft, and pyro were rewritten because of what happened that night. The material has never been officially released as content. But it exists, and it is circulated. And every time it's viewed, it's proof of what happens when a production's ambition outruns its safety. Number 4. Brandon Lee. The Crow, 1994. He had a famous name, but he was determined to earn his own place. Being Bruce Lee's son guaranteed attention. But Brandon Lee didn't want to live as a footnote. The Crow was supposed to be the film that made him undeniable, his own icon, his own career, his own future. He played Eric Draven, murdered and resurrected to avenge what was taken from him. The movie was moody, stylized, and intense, and Lee threw himself into it. He trained constantly, handled physical work, and according to cast and crew, brought a charge to the set that made everyone believe they were making something special. Then came March 31st, 1993. In Wilmington, North Carolina, they were filming the scene where Eric is shot in his apartment. Actor Michael Massey fired a prop gun from roughly 15 feet away. The weapon was supposed to be safe-loaded with blanks. Not live ammunition, but blank didn't mean harmless. And worse, the gun wasn't truly clear. A dummy round from an earlier setup had left a fragment lodged in the barrel. It should have been caught. It wasn't. When the blank was fired, the force propelled that fragment like a real projectile. It struck Lee in the abdomen. He dropped it first. Some people assumed he was selling the moment. Then they saw the blood. Not stage blood that kept coming. The room flipped from routine to panic in a heartbeat. Lee was rushed to the hospital. Surgeons fought for him for hours. He was 28, engaged to Eliza Hutton, planning a life that ended on a soundstage floor. Reports say the most explicit footage of the impact was destroyed, a deliberate choice by the filmmakers. But parts of what was shot before and around the fatal moment remain embedded in the production. The film was completed using rewrites, stand-ins, and early digital techniques, and it became a cult landmark. The tragedy endures because the cause was so avoidable. A weapon not properly checked, a basic safety step missed, and a promising life erased. Number 3. Jon-Erik Hexum. This one hurts because it began as a joke. Jon-Erik Hexum was 26, charismatic, photogenic, and on the fast track. He landed the lead in Cover Up, a CBS series about a fashion photographer pulled into espionage. The show was light, glossy, built around his charm. On set, he had the kind of presence that made people think star. On October 12, 1984, the production was bogged down in delays. Waiting stretches long. Tempers fade into boredom. During the downtime, Hexum grabbed a prop gun loaded with blanks. Fooling around, he put it to his temple, reportedly made a quip, and pulled the trigger, treating it like a harmless gag. It wasn't. A blank has no bullet, but it still detonates with explosive force. At point-blank range, the blast and wadding can be catastrophic. The discharge drove fragments into his skull and forced bone into his brain. He was rushed to the hospital and placed on life support. His mother flew in from New Jersey. For nearly a week, he remained in a coma, but the injury was unsurvivable. On October 18, 1984, he was declared brain dead. His mother chose organ donation as death, at least. It became a lifeline for others. People who were present described the sound, the suddenness, the screaming afterward. Any footage from set cameras was never broadcast publicly. But the lesson was brutal and permanent. Blanks are not toys, and prop does not mean safe. Number 2. The stuntmen of early Hollywood, silent-era casualties. This isn't one tragedy. It's a pattern one the industry was built on. In the earliest decades of film, safety standards were practically non-existent. No coordinated stunt teams. No rigorous rehearsals. No regulated protections. If a director wanted a fall, someone took a fall. If a scene demanded a dangerous leap, someone made the jump. And when it went wrong, the cameras often didn't stop. Stunt performers in that era were frequently undertrained and underpaid, sometimes athletes, sometimes circus workers, sometimes men desperate enough to accept any risk for a paycheck. Injuries were routine. Deaths weren't rare. There are documented stories from the 1920s where aerial sequences ended in fatal crashes, with cameras capturing the aircraft spiraling down and the impact itself, footage later incorporated because it looked spectacular. Audiences believed they were seeing impressive trick photography. They were watching the real end of a human life. Massive productions added their own toll. The original Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ 1:9-5, remains infamous for the sheer scale of its chariot result with the serious injuries reported during filming and long-standing accounts of at least one fatality. Horses were also injured or killed. It's treated as expendable pieces of spectacle. Those early years established a grim truth studios didn't want to admit out loud. Authentic danger created authentic thrills. And for too long, the people absorbing that danger were considered replaceable of uncredited, easily substituted, and quickly forgotten. If someone didn't come home after a shoot, the production still had a schedule. And the next day, another body showed up to do the same stunt. The film rolled on because it always did. Number 1. Joi Harris, Deadpool 2. It was supposed to be a clean, fast motorcycle pass. One smooth run. One more take. Joi Harris wasn't an actor audiences recognized, but in the stunt world she mattered. She was a trailblazer in motorcycle stunts, experienced, fearless, highly respected for what she could do on a bike. On August 14, 2017, production was filming in downtown Vancouver. Harris was doubling a character for a motorcycle sequence. The setup was straightforward on paper. Ride at speed through a controlled area. Hit marks make the movement look aggressive but precise. Cameras were positioned. Streets were locked down. Crew watched from behind barricades. Everyone was doing what film sets always do, trying to capture danger while keeping it contained. Then it broke containment. During the run, Harris lost control. The bike didn't correct back toward the planned path. It continued forward, crossed the line of safety, and slammed into a building. The impact was immediate and catastrophic. Crew members rushed in, but there was nothing they could do. She died from the crash, and because it was a stunt shot. The cameras were rolling. The incident was recorded from multiple angle set cameras. Nearby footage and accounts from people who saw it happen in real time, none of it was meant for the public. But like so many tragedies in an era where everything can be copied and shared, pieces of it surfaced anyway. Afterward, the production shut down temporarily. Investigators reviewed what happened. And the tragedy reignited a familiar argument Hollywood keeps having. How much risk is acceptable? How much rehearsal is enough? And how often the pressure to get the shot quietly overwhelms caution. The film later included a tribute to her. But a tribute is not a safeguard, and it doesn't undo what a rolling camera captured that day.